A man wearing a bomb suit storms into a high-security government office, reflecting on the past. After taking out every security guard in his path, he's in no rush. First, he orders the terrified officials to sit down. Then he releases the waitresses and warns everyone not to speak a single word without his permission. But some people just won't listen. Right as the man is about to detonate the bomb, a woman walks in. It's Cha-Yun, a negotiator from the Seoul Police Department, the only good person this man acknowledges. And aside from Cha-Yun, he believes that every single person he killed truly deserved it. It all started with a mission 1 week earlier. Cha-Yun had just returned from a blind date, not even having time to change her clothes, when she was rushed to a kidnapping scene. A veteran bald officer asked if she'd been drinking, showing a complete lack of professionalism. The bald officer told her the captain was currently struggling at the front door because the kidnappers spoke English, and the captain's English was basically gibberish. So, after a quick mouthwash, Cha-Yun decided to take matters into her own hands. The captain was surprised to see her and told her the special forces were ready for an all-out assault. Shocked, she managed to buy 30 minutes for negotiations. First, she spoke to the kidnappers from outside, then proved she was unarmed and tried to enter, and the kidnappers didn't refuse her. The face-to-face negotiation was actually very effective. The kidnappers were just about to agree to release the female hostage when the special forces outside suddenly intervened. In a moment of pure frustration, the sniper's shot missed the mark and killed the male hostage on the spot. Then, the special forces threw flashbangs, stormed the bedroom, and killed the kidnappers, but the remaining female hostage also died a tragic death. This tragedy hit Cha-Yun hard. She immediately submitted her resignation, but her captain refused to accept it, only giving her a few days off to rest. However, after just a few days, that same bald guy knocked on her door, saying there was an urgent mission that required her presence. When Cha-Yun arrived in full uniform at the high-level operations room of the Seoul Intelligence Center, she immediately realized the big players were there: the mayor, the Secretary General of National Defense, and the head of the intelligence agency. The entire technical team was present, with advanced equipment scattered across the floor. But when she asked for the details, her superiors ignored her, only stating that the man they were dealing with, a guy named Taegu, was an arms smuggler frequently on Interpol's blacklist with countless illegal deals. The Korean government had been trying to catch him for years, but couldn't even get a glimpse of him. No one expected that this elusive figure, who moves more mysteriously than a ghost, would actually reach out to them today, wanting to negotiate with Han via video call. When the call connected, both sides started with polite greetings, but after just a few sentences, Taegu lost his patience, becoming tough and aggressive. Even more surprising, it seemed like luck had cut off the call. Cha-Yun explained to her superiors that she didn't even know the context or the goal of the negotiation. A man like that would never sit down and expose everything without understanding the situation. The standoff continued, and then Taegu sent another video request. The Secretary General ordered Cha-Yun to answer. Cha-Yun, not one to accept such behavior, answered, told him she had business to handle, and then hung up again. She walked over to the Secretary General with a firm attitude. As a professional negotiator, she needed to know every single detail before she could work. That was a line she simply would not cross. The Secretary General was clearly furious and immediately assigned another negotiator, Chief Han, to take over. This last-minute personnel change made Taegu absolutely livid. When the video call connected for the third time, he didn't say a word and pointed the camera directly at a hostage. Cha-Yun's heart sank at the sight. Wasn't that the group leader who hadn't let her resign? Taegu grabbed a revolver, wanting to play a game of Russian roulette. He loaded it, gave it a shake, and fired without a second thought. The scene terrified everyone. Cha-Yun couldn't sit still anymore. She rushed into the room, apologized for hanging up earlier, and asked Taegu about his demands. Taegu was silent for a moment, then said that they had to be completely honest with each other. Absolutely honest. Cha-Yun is clearly shaken by the request and doesn't agree right away. Taegu demands that she put her weapon away first, insisting that only then can both sides reach an agreement with the police department. Then, Taegu drops his first serious demand. He wants Cha-Yun to reveal the real identities of every single person in the intelligence center who is monitoring their negotiation. As soon as he says this, the entire operations room falls into a deathly silence. Everyone realizes that the game has only just begun, and Taegu's true motives are likely far more complex than they ever imagined. Cha-Yun follows his orders, listing the identities of everyone present. However, as her eyes scan the room and land on the Secretary General, a message suddenly flashes on a nearby computer screen, ordering her not to mention his presence. Cha-Yun hesitates for a moment, then vaguely says he is just another person there. Taegu is obviously not satisfied with this answer. He makes an excuse about going to grab a bite to eat and abruptly ends the call. Taking advantage of this brief opening, the intelligence agency quickly calls an internal meeting. Only then does Cha-Yun finally get the lowdown on the hostages. Taegu is holding two people, a reporter kidnapped in Bangkok and her own direct captain. It turns out that after receiving the mission, the captain had gone to the location Taegu specified to act as the negotiator and try to rescue the reporter. However, he was snatched by Taegu and didn't even get a chance to negotiate. Furthermore, a few days ago, Taegu had intentionally caused trouble for an intelligence officer, and this morning, he directly released the video of the captain's kidnapping, specifically demanding that Cha-Yun be the one to talk. At this point, the highest-ranking official in the room, the Secretary General, finally comes clean with the truth. Because Taegu is so unpredictable, the military has secretly planned to deploy an Air Force Special Operations team to Bangkok to rescue the reporter. Cha-Yun is instructed to stall for as much time as possible. She needs to buy the military an extra 14 hours. To prepare, Cha-Yun quickly flips through Taegu's file, but she's only a few pages in when the video call rings again. This time, Taegu speaks in his usual casual tone, even joking about Cha-Yun's type in men. At first, it seems like just another way to stall for instructions, but what happens next sends Cha-Yun into a panic. The sound of her captain gasping for air comes through the speakers, and Taegu's voice chimes in. "I gave the captain some medicine, but it looks like he took too much. I don't know if he's going to make it." Cha-Yun can't stand to see her captain suffering like that, so she immediately cuts Taegu off and tells him to state his second demand. After some blunt talk, he says it straight, bring the chairman of the Daehan Daily to meet him within 1 hour. But at that moment, the chairman couldn't care less about a kidnapped reporter. He's casually swinging his clubs on a golf course. Suddenly, a helicopter lands right on the green and hauls him off to the intelligence agency. Cha-Yun has a series of questions ready for him, and the very first one hits the mark. Why did the reporter's project disappear without a single report? Based on Cha-Yun's clues, the chairman was involved in both the attack and the shutdown of the project, and he used to have private drinks with the team regularly. After that, no matter what Cha-Yun asks about the project's performance or family matters, the chairman stays silent. But when asked about the team's drinking habits, the chairman suddenly fumbles, stuttering and failing to answer before blurting out that he doesn't even like drinking. Just a few questions ago, he claimed he drank with them all the time. Such a simple question. And the chairman is instantly exposed. After a long silence, he stands up and steps back, revealing his golf shorts. Cha-Yun grills him, asking how he could be out playing golf when the fate of his own reporter is still unknown. She continues to press him on whether this project is actually connected to the Daehan Daily. The chairman starts to panic. Cha-Yun adds 8 more points of pressure, saying she has information about the reporter's family. Just as the chairman is about to spill the truth, the prosecutor general suddenly interrupts, clearly trying to cover something up. The secretary general is deeply annoyed by the prosecutor general's interference. To regain his composure, he walks up to the project and asks, "Is this project related to the Daehan Daily?" However, the prosecutor general isn't intimidated and uses force to silence the chairman. Finally, left with no other choice, the chairman reveals the truth to protect the project and his family. The reporter was never actually a journalist under his command. Cha-Yun hears this truth for the first time as well, and she is absolutely stunned, completely unable to fathom why her superiors would hide such a critical issue. Taegu, on the other hand, doesn't believe a single word of Cha-Yun's explanation. He's convinced she broke her promise and that there has to be a price to pay. He walks straight up and shoots the team leader in the head. Cha-Yun tries her absolute best, but she can't stop the tragedy, and the root cause of it all was the high-ranking officials withholding vital intelligence. Seeing Cha-Yun having a mental breakdown, her subordinates quickly cut the video feed. At this point, the special forces still need 9 more hours to reach Bangkok, and the command center suddenly changes its mind, ordering everyone to move to international waters to prepare for underwater operations. Once she calms down a bit, Cha-Yun goes to confront her superiors, but she's kicked out. Even Han, standing right beside her, gets treated the same way. Once they get in the car, they finally spill everything they know. It turns out reporter Lee wasn't a real reporter at all. He was an undercover agent sent by the intelligence agency to investigate Taegu. The reporter title was just a cover. Even though there's no real hostage, Cha-Yun still can't wrap her head around what Taegu is trying to do. She's been pulled off the mission, but she has no intention of giving up. She immediately assigns her team to investigate arms smuggling leads in Southeast Asia, and even sends the bald officer to find the chairman of the Daehan Daily to dig deeper. Meanwhile, a resentful secret agent talks to Taegu and immediately offers to clear his criminal record in exchange for the survival of the project, the undercover agent. However, Taegu sees right through this stalling tactic. He makes a provocative move that is recognized internationally, and the negotiation completely collapses. The secret agent then complains that they are willing to risk anything, declaring that even if they have to sacrifice the project, they will never let Taegu escape danger. Realizing the project isn't a strong enough bargaining chip, Taegu ups the ante. His men drag in a South Korean family traveling abroad to test the power of this new leverage. Taegu pulls a little girl in front of the camera and even holds a knife to the project director's throat. An intelligence official actually sings a nursery rhyme in front of the lens, and the project is then handed back to Taegu. He demands that Cha-yoon return to the negotiations within 30 minutes, or he'll kill the project. At this point, the Air Force Special Forces have parachuted in from the strait and are deploying high-speed boats at sea. There are only 4 hours left until the raid begins. As soon as Cha-yoon gets back to the Intelligence Bureau, she forces the Secretary General to hand over all the information. Only by knowing the full story can she understand Taegu's true intentions. This time, Taegu stops beating around the bush and directly makes his third demand. Summon the chairman of an electronics industry tycoon within 1 hour. From the intelligence reports, Cha-yoon learns that this chairman used to be Taegu's partner and mentor. Later, due to a dispute over the unfair distribution of smuggled weapons in Malacca, the chairman couldn't control his anger. He snitched on Taegu to the intelligence agency and paid 50 million in taxes to avoid prosecution. The two sides have been bitter enemies ever since. In fact, all the money, location data, and equipment for this military operation were provided by that very chairman. Right now, the chairman is sitting in a lounge, watching this life-or-death negotiation on a big screen with a group of high-ranking officials. Meanwhile, the bald officer has arrived at the apartment building of the daily newspaper's editor. Right then, they happen to see the editor frantically stuffing suitcases into his car trunk. He's about to flee with his whole family. The editor, obsessed with escaping, doesn't hesitate and immediately calls out all his superiors and high-level officials. Armed with these insider stories, Cha-yoon feels the negotiations getting more complicated and unpredictable by the second. With every demand from Taegu, an even higher-ranking official is dragged into the mess. That's when the chairman finally arrives. The moment Taegu sees him, he bows respectfully and asks the chairman to unfreeze his blocked Swiss bank account. The chairman immediately promises to handle this seemingly simple request. But this is just the appetizer. After the small talk, Taegu's expression suddenly flips. He bluntly asks the chairman, "Why did you kill you?" This unfamiliar name leaves Cha-yoon completely baffled. Seeing the confusion written all over Cha-yoon's face, Taegu decides to help her jog her memory. He brings up that kidnapping case she was rushed to a week ago, right in the middle of her blind date. It turns out one of the hostages killed in that raid was named Yu, and that is exactly why Taegu insisted on Cha-yoon being his negotiator. But that's not all. He points out that the police's claim of a simple robbery was total nonsense. There were world-famous paintings at that scene, and the owner of those masterpieces was none other than the chairman sitting right there, or rather, the chairman was a co-owner. The chairman tries to play dumb, claiming he doesn't know a man named Kim. So, Taegu drops another truth bomb. Kim was the person Taegu personally introduced to the chairman to guard his secret vault. That 2 billion in cash in the vault? Just a distraction. The real value was in the paintings, each worth billions. The entire robbery was nothing but a massive cover-up. When Taegu sees they still aren't backing down, he plays his trump card. A voice recording. It's a crystal-clear audio of the chairman talking to high-ranking officials about smuggling and bribery, involving the Director of National Security and the Deputy Director of the National Intelligence Service. The leverage officially shifts to Taegu's side, but the officials still play tough, claiming a single recording isn't enough evidence. Fine. Since they want to play that way, Taegu issues his fourth demand. Bring the Director of National Security, a man named Hwang, to meet him within 1 hour. If not, every single hostage dies. At this point in the game, the elites finally realize that Taegu has been planning this for a long time. To keep their dirty secrets buried, Hwang issues a death warrant. Kill Taegu at all costs. It's the only way to protect their power. Meanwhile, Hyuk-soo calls Cha-yoon with a discovery from the call logs. Her captain and the Vice Minister of Defense were in constant contact. Even weirder, the captain, who only makes about $3,000 a month, had somehow paid off all his wife's massive hospital bills in a very short time. Everyone in the room knows that was dirty money. To make matters worse, the Secretary General finds Cha-yoon and tells her Hwang isn't coming because he's in a meeting. With only 2 hours left until the Special Forces strike, the negotiation is about to get even more brutal. True to form, Taegu doesn't wait for Hwang. He points his gun at the hostage and starts making threats. Panicking, Cha-yoon promises to reinvestigate every single related case and even lies, saying the person leading the meeting is already being interrogated. Whether this was a stalling tactic or a genuine attempt to help, her words seem to get through to Taegu. But Taegu wants proof. He demands that the police commander personally verify the facts. At this stage, the truth doesn't even matter anymore. This game has moved way beyond truth versus lies. Because here's the kicker. Taegu has been live-streaming the entire video call on the internet. TV news channels and giant screens all over the city are broadcasting this earth-shattering confrontation to anyone with an internet connection. The intelligence department realizes there's a leak way too late, and the room falls into pure chaos. Cha-Yoon is beyond furious. She finally realizes she's been used as a puppet by Taegu this whole time. Right then, Taegu shoots the project manager in the leg and says a final goodbye to Director Hwang. He promises to stay quiet for 1 hour, but warns that he will kill one hostage every 10 minutes after that. The usually cold-blooded Hwang finally panics, but he quickly cooks up a plan. Find a scapegoat and order the special forces to strike immediately. He has completely lost his mind. Whether it's the captain or innocent tourists, anyone standing in the way of his interests has to die. Meanwhile, the bald officer stumbles upon a massive piece of the puzzle. Yu, the hostage from the first scene, was actually the only female member of Taegu's team. More importantly, she was his sister. The two had looked out for each other since they were kids. At that exact moment, the special forces use satellite tracking to raid the building where they think Taegu is hiding. The mercenaries at the entrance are taken out one by one. But just as the breach team prepares to storm the room, Taegu pulls a man covered in explosives in front of the camera. Hwang, blinded by rage and desperation, ignores Cha-Yoon's pleas and insists on continuing the operation. After the explosion clears on the screen, Hwang lets out a sigh of relief. He's so heartless that he even orders his subordinates to break out the drinks and celebrate, showing zero mercy for the lives lost. But Cha-Yoon, still drowning in grief, notices something is off. She watches the video over and over again and spots a fatal flaw. The lighting angle is wrong. She realizes with a shock that Taegu isn't in Bangkok at all. He's right here in South Korea. Following Cha-Yoon's hunch, the intelligence agency quickly confirms that Taegu did indeed enter South Korea using a fake passport. Meanwhile, the bald officer follows a lead to an orphanage where Taegu spent time as a child. Inside the gates, he finds the captain barely clinging to life. This confirms Taegu's presence on Korean soil, and the officer immediately alerts Cha-Yoon. By this time, Taegu has already infiltrated the building where the high-ranking officials are working. The moment he steps out of the elevator, he draws his weapon and begins a deadly spree. Every person inside glares at him with murderous intent. Taegu pulls out a detonator, declaring that he is prepared to die, but he makes it clear he has no interest in harming innocents. He orders the servers and anyone uninvolved to leave the room immediately. As Taegu is confronting Director Hwang, the chairman suddenly makes the mistake of interrupting him, and Taegu shoots him dead on the spot. He has absolutely zero mercy for anyone who breaks his rules. This killing the chicken to warn the monkeys act works. Director Hwang's resolve immediately crumbles, and he begins to beg for his life. But he can't give Taegu what he truly wants. Just then, Cha-Yoon arrives at the scene. She tells him that she deeply understands the agonizing pain of losing his sister. As a professional negotiator, she offers a sincere apology for failing to prevent the earlier tragedy and makes a solemn promise to bring the truth to light. Taegu finally reveals the full, ugly truth. His sister, Hyun-suk, was actually an undercover agent planted by the chairman. She had been secretly gathering evidence, but she was discovered and murdered. In a twisted sense of guilt, Taegu feels that he was the one who ultimately caused her death by involving her. At this point, Taegu loses his last bit of patience and screams at Cha-Yoon to leave. But just as they are speaking, a sniper's bullet shatters the window. It hits him in the head before he can finish his mission. Tragically, he never gets to see the corrupt officials who stole so many lives face their proper punishment. The officials immediately try to scramble into their cars and flee, already looking for a scapegoat, but Cha-Yoon blocks their path. Holding the evidence of their crimes in her hands, she stares down these once powerful men. She warns them not to think for 1 second that they can get away with this or that they can hide. This time, there will be no mercy. Thanks to Cha-Yoon's relentless determination, the corrupt officials are finally brought to justice. And that is where the story ends. The film holds a solid 7.1 rating on Dubon, and it takes a very different approach compared to your typical action crime thrillers. It doesn't rely on high-speed car chases or massive explosions to build tension. Instead, it relies almost entirely on its dialogue. Cha-Yoon's character doesn't follow the perfect protagonist blueprint. She radiates genuine stress and vulnerability. She's not a calm, collected superhuman, but rather feels like a real person carrying a massive burden for the first time in her life. This grounded, humble portrayal makes her much easier to empathize with than a character built on manufactured strength. Similarly, Hyun Bin's portrayal of Tae-gu breaks away from the stereotypical villain mold. He isn't just a cold-blooded killer. He has a clear, burning purpose that elevates his role beyond simple evil and adds a layer of depth that resonates with the audience. Negotiation is the heart of this movie. The two main elements focus entirely on the battle of wits, using dialogue, even the seemingly unnecessary parts, to effectively convey the mental strain of the confrontation. At the same time, the film doesn't shy away from the harsh reality of crisis management, which often requires not just clever tactics but the coordination of internal political positions. This authentic portrayal gives the movie much more substance than a generic thriller. What's even more commendable is how the film avoids cold, harsh confrontations. The characters interact with a sense of warmth and humanity that goes beyond being mere enemies. This brings a softer, more subtle tone to the story, preventing it from feeling like a mechanical war without human connection. Of course, the film isn't perfect. Some scenes in the final act feel a bit rushed, but overall, it provides a deep exploration of what negotiation truly is. Negotiation isn't just about talking. It's about enduring pressure, understanding the human heart, and having the courage to persist until you find the key issues. It's about stepping back to face the root of the problem and meeting real needs. That is the only way to truly resolve a crisis. Well, that's it for today's video. If you have any other insights about the movie, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll see you guys next time.